Very special guests. Our guest right now who is everything from a doctor to an author to one of the seminal figures in the libertarian movement in this country. He is, I guess, I don't know if he ever planned on being introduced this way, but he's the father of a very prominent politician, the junior senator from Kentucky, Rand Paul. We welcome to the program former Congressman Dr. Ron Paul. How are you doing, Dr. Paul?
Thank you, Geraldo. Nice to be with you. I'm doing fine.
Same here. So how does it feel having 80% of the American people choosing sides to be with you against the war in Syria? It's a for you to have the majority of the folks is a rare occasion in your life, isn't it?
You know, I was talking to Dennis Kucinich the other day, and we were reminiscing about this because there were quite a few times that he and I would be voting together alone, you know, the libertarians and the progressives. So we were commenting about how many more people now have come our way, and I think it's good. Some of it's pure politics, but we'll take the votes any way we can get it. But I think the people are speaking out, and I think the people, not the politicians, are tired of the wars, and the politicians rightfully are responding to this. So I look at it as good news.
Ron Paul is my guest, famously the man who helped restart modern libertarianism. I told you, didn't I, Dr. Paul, that my son voted for you twice in the run for the president. He's he's right now a young 30-something, highly educated computer kind of guy, and he also is a libertarian. He thinks that Bradley Manning is a patriot and Ed Snowden is a patriot and Julian Assange is a good guy. And do you agree with all three of those fellas?
Yeah, but you make sure that everybody knows that he didn't vote twice in the same election.
Well, he's not from Chicago.
You told me that before, but it gets better all the time.
All right.
You keep telling me that, and it seems like he and I agree with just about everything.
So what do you think about the description of the GOP as being cut now with a gigantic schism, and one side, the traditional Republican side, saying let's help the presidents go to war against these bad people, and the other side led by your son and Senator Ted Cruz of Texas saying it's someone else's fight?
Well, you know, that is true. I think it's neat because I think we need that debate. But that's happening in the Democrat Party, too. If you look at the vote on NSA, the Justin Amash vote, that same thing happened. Leadership in both parties were all for the NSA, and the people talking to the younger members were taking an opposition position. But that's happening in this vote, too. Nancy Pelosi and John Boehner are standing together. And so the leadership of the parties are sort of the one war party, and then the progressive Democrats and the more honest individuals are another group, along with the libertarian groups in the Republican Party. And that's what my goal has always been, you know, to bring that group together and have the influence, and I think it's happening. I'm not sure it's going to last. I think there's going to be a lot of propaganda, even before the vote, to see if they can convince the American people that, you know, if we don't do something that, like Lindsey Graham said, they might drop a nuclear bomb on South Carolina before we know it.
Well, I hope that never happens, and I hope he's wrong, but I also don't like warmongering. The big news today, Ron Paul is my special guest, ladies and gentlemen. The big news just breaking now, the Russian foreign minister saying that they will try to use their good offices and their influence on their client state of Syria to put the chemical weapons under international control. We certainly support that, don't we?
Yes, we do. And isn't it interesting that I know it's all a lot of politicking, but it's interesting that on the surface it looks like the Russians right now are working toward peace, and we're the aggressors, and we're the ones who want to drop the bombs. We've gone 6,000 miles away from our home, and we've occupied all these countries. We've messed up, Egypt and Iraq and Afghanistan and Libya, and now we're into Syria, and who knows, Iran will be next. And the Russians are coming and say, hey, why don't we calm down and talk about this a little bit? So it's interesting theater.
I hate that I agree with the Russians. I hate it. It just goes against everything. I'm of the age, where we used to hide under the desks for fear of a Soviet nuclear attack in school.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to do it, but we have to be honest with ourselves. That's the biggest job, is is being honest when our government's making a mistake, and that's what is difficult. But I do know that empires depend on not giving a straight story to the people. The people have to go along for different reasons than they knowing the truth, and that's why so much is done in secrecy by the government. And it's also the reason that our privacy and our ability to express ourselves and the use of the laws to suppress people in the media who want to tell these stories and really turn a whistleblower into a traitor. That's where our real problem is today.
What's the Ron Paul channel? What is that?
Well, it's an internet channel, and it's one where I do interviews and talk about the news and talk about the things that I've been doing for 30 or 40 years. It's just the vehicle that I'm using, and we put new things on, brand new things, about 3 or 4 times a week on that channel, RonPaulChannel.com.
My son's in Galveston now. You represented them so long and so well. He's at A&M down there. I'm going to have him come over and say hi to you.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea. Tell him to give me a call.
That's my young son. But I gotta ask you. Last week you had a big brawl on MSNBC. I don't know what you expected were going on MSNBC, but they accused you of speaking before this anti-Semitic group in Canada. Is that true?
Well, I'm speaking there, but nobody's proven what their qualities are. I was told when I signed a contract, it was a conservative Catholic group that was very much pro-peace, and I was asked by the individual who invited me to speak about foreign policy because they were interested in a peace program and as well as the economy. And I figured, well, my philosophy of peace and prosperity and tolerance should be tolerated any place. But some people would like to silence individuals who are so strongly anti-war, because the people who made the criticism and then made those charges, which I consider false, are all very, very pro-war, and they have thrown those things out for a good many years.
You've had problems with the Jewish community. Why is that?
Who decided that?
Well, I don't know. You just seem to always be butting heads with the Israeli lobby. And do you think that the pro-war faction has anything to do with religion now?
Yeah, but that's a false assumption, because in the early 80s when Israel bombed Iraq nuclear reactor, the UN and the United States condemned them for doing that, and I was the only one in Congress that said they have a right to do what they want to defend themselves. And I am not going through the list, but if anybody really cared about my relationship, they ought to look at all my organizations and relationships and business relationships, and they would come down with a different assumption.
So you're just rejecting that, and I don't want to end on a bummer down note. I just want to ask you one last time how you feel being speaking on the majority side for once, or for once in a long time.
On the foreign policy. Well, I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I'm very, encouraged by this. I hope it's a sea change in our attitudes, and I think it could be. If there is a vote this week, and this vote, goes our way and does not give the authority to the president, I think it will be historic. I think it would be the greatest thing that could happen to this country.
Former Congressman Ron Paul, Dr. Ron Paul, I appreciate you coming. I always do, and thanks very much.
Okay, thank you.
All right.